meeting to order.
We're just waiting for it to go live, so bear with us for another minute.
Okay. Thank you.
We are live and ready when you are, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:02 Alaska time. And if the clerk could go ahead and do the roll call.
Commissioner Forsberg,
Here.
Commissioner Kroll is absent. Commissioner Ryan here, and Commissioner Sweet.
Here.
All right, we have 3 members here. We do have a quorum to continue.
Okay, then I'll just go down the agenda. I'm at item C. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I can second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, and if the clerk could do the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan. Yes. And Commissioner Sweet.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 3 yes, 1 absent.
And then the next is the approval of the minutes from November 1st, 2023. And in this case, is it just asking for approval, or do I need to have a motion?
We need a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Okay,
I
so
can-
if I could have a motion to approve the minutes.
I will move to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second it. Excuse me.
All those in favor?
Commissioner Forsberg
Yes.
and Commissioner Ryan. Yes. And Commissioner Sweet.
Yes.
Okay, we have 3 yes and 1 absent. Motion passes.
Thank you. And then the next item is public comment regarding items not on the agenda.
We have no members of the public at this time. And we have no public
there's no
hearing.
one online.
There is no one online except for yourself.
Thank you. Then going on to item F, public hearing prior notice.
We have none.
Okay, and then do we have any consideration of site plans?
No, we do not.
Okay, and so then moving on to item H, commission business. The first one is ordinance 2404, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Seldovia, Alaska, amending Seldovia Municipal Code Title 17, Section 17.04.020, building permits to include a public hearing process for adverse topographical item impacts. Shall I turn that over to you, Madam City Clerk?
I'm sure through the chair. So if we all go back to our previous meetings, we had discussed draft language for an ordinance, which was then introduced to the city council, addressing adverse topographical impacts. And that ordinance, as it was submitted, is on page 5 of your packet. And that was introduced and heard by the council, and they referred it back to the planning commission. And what they were interested in was more definitions and some sort of process, more kind of fleshed out on how that would work. And specifically, who would make the determination if there was a potential impact and what would be the outcome of that process and proceeding. And so I kind of wanted to bring that back for the commission and find out what length or scope the commission was interested in exploring for this. And I know Chair Sweet has done some research into the International Building Code as well as some other municipal codes. And I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that, Madam Chair.
So I think, I guess sort of at the big picture level, I would say we might need to work on this a bit more. There's not that many places that have details on this type of ordinance, but the city clerk has been able to find one from Homer just recently, and I've been able to find some information from Haynes. There seem to be some civil engineering standards that have a drainage and grading plan. So so that's a tool that could be used as part of the process. I think in Seldovia, we don't have a lot of complex drainage management systems that at least that I'm aware of. I mean, there may be some swales. We don't seem to have a lot of culverts. So, and I guess the other thing that has been underway is the stormwater pollution prevention. There's been some activities that the city has done in terms of assessment. So the sort of drainage and grading type of activities seem to also be connected to stormwater pollution prevention. So I don't think the intent is to make this complicated, but I think there might be some things that are underway that might be related that we might just want to at least be aware of. We may choose not to connect it, but just to understand that managing surface water is something that is related to different activities. And so that's kind of at least some preliminary information. And I was really interested to find out from the commission members if anyone has any experience with processes or ideas about what they think might be a good process. And then kind of circling back to what we had, I think, initially come up with was we wanted there to be a way to communicate so that if somebody's doing a project on their property and if there's something that could adversely impact another property. So if a big cut was being made on a hill, or if let's say the surface water is draining one way and all of a sudden if the grade has changed and then surface water is now going onto somebody else's property, those are things we would want to prevent from happening in terms of risks. If a project has a retaining wall and a water dewatering process or other means to manage water, then that would be a way of managing that risk. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to recognize that Commissioner Kroll is is at the meeting now. So I guess if any of the commissioners, if you have experience in this or any thoughts, I would really appreciate any feedback that you would have.
I have a little bit of experience. This is Commissioner Ryan, landscape architect for my professional life, and we did grading plans all the time. What I recall is that it's sort of a industry standard that you just don't change the drainage. You don't dump water from your side onto neighboring properties. It's kind of an unwritten rule, but it must be spelled out in code because those kind of things are. But it was definitely a thing that was taught, and it was a kind of just a standard that you don't do that. Another thing on this topographical question is, like, I guess it's kind of came to light because of the big cut that was at the clinic this last summer. And I could see as a adjacent property owner, that would be kind of unnerving to have a cut right up to the property line. So I was thinking maybe a setback like we have for how close your building can be to the property line, that there could be setbacks to how close you can change the existing grade, where your construction impact would be offset 10 feet or something, 5 feet, something to have a barrier or a protected boundary between adjacent properties.
Thank you. And just to let you know, I'm aware of at least one property owner that had a situation where somebody did change the grade and then they ended up with water and some erosion. And this happened. It happened a while ago, but it did happen. So that was another thing that had crossed my path.
Right.
So,
And when most of in our codes, I'm not sure what you call it, all these things you have in the city to manage regulations, ordinances, whatever they're called. Is there a definition for what we're talking about? Like, a lot of things are tied back to a list of definitions. So we'd have to define what adverse topographical impacts are.
Correct. And through the chair, no, at this time, we do not have that definition in code. And I think that's one of the things the council wanted to
Okay.
bring back here to kind of flesh out a little bit. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the city council was supportive of the idea, but wanted to make sure that it didn't go, that it had a definitions and kind of a
Okay.
process in place. That clear?
I've worked on some highway projects, and a lot of times if you make a cut like that, you gotta beef it up with shotcrete. You gotta cement it up, and so it doesn't fall into the road and stuff. So maybe that would be a solution too, if it starts giving out or whatever. But yeah, you definitely don't want your neighbor caving in.
Also, I guess the thing in just in Alaska, I believe that if you're cutting a slope that requires it requires a professional engineer to assess it and I guess install retaining walls or whatever preventive mechanism is used. It does have to be signed off by a PE. So so that's one thing. And then in many regulations, it says the person will abide by all local, state, federal, national codes and requirements. So there's sort of like a requirement to follow things. So that's kind of, I think, fairly standard language. But I guess people aren't always familiar with what those are. Does anybody else have any information or comments?
The drainage is important because that happened to us here in Homer in our house. When they put in that boatyard, it um, blocked off a lot of the drainage right there for the swamp, and it made our property flood.
Yeah.
The wetlands. They had to put in bigger culverts and clean out the culverts on our street right there because they were plugged.
Hmm.
So that might be a consideration. I don't know.
Yeah, have you seen the rain down there in LA? There's multi-million-dollar homes just going right down to gone.
Yeah.
I'm sure they all had retaining walls and stuff, but not good enough.
That's infrastructure, thinking ahead.
Yeah.
So
I have a question, like, you have this chapter 18.96 public hearings. Are the public hearing, is there a list of what triggers a public hearing? Is it the zone when they're not meeting the codes?
Currently for the public hearing, it would be a tidelands permit, a conditional use, a variance. I'm missing.
Okay.
There's one more.
Yeah. Yes, conditional use variance and then any re-subdivision or not subdivision, but a vacation.
Vacation of
Oh,
a
easement.
right of way
Yeah.
or an easement replat.
Not necessarily replat, but a vacation.
And so that public hearing is the process used.
And then
for
this
that
would be an
Oh,
additional,
sorry for a process. Yes, replat as well.
replat.
so we're saying this would be an additional one you'd add to this list of,
Yeah, so
Okay.
that if there was a potential adverse impact, it would be added to that list so that it would have notification of neighboring properties. And it would be a public hearing before the planning commission rather than a staff review and just one commissioner, like how we currently do the building permits. And
So, it sounds like we need to continue to work this to get, some definitions and, um,
yeah, so like, yeah, through the chair, if I may, the council wanted some definitions of what define that adverse topographical impact. As well as maybe like a reference for what property owners were supposed to follow and then. I don't know. Yeah, process for that push out. So I guess I'm hoping to gather, not sure what, how in-depth do we want to go? Do we want to add stuff into the code that would require drainage plans? I think in the Soldotna code, it was very simple. If I recall, it just said a drainage plan would be required. And then I can pull up what the Homer one is, which does have a definition and requires site plans at different levels for different zoning districts. And if we want to put language in our code reflecting that, or if we want to reference an industry standard. And I don't know if there's anything really in the International Building Code, which is what we reference now, that really addresses this. Although Randy, you may have found something.
there was another, it was an international, I think it was an international construction code. But it kind of, I don't think it had a lot of detail to what needed to be done, but it just, I think it was kind of back to what Commissioner Ryan had said about, basically not, not dumping surface water on an adjacent lot or, into public areas. So, I think that was the reference that I had, sent you.
that's one of the considerations for setbacks too, ain't it? You know, for water coming off the roof and stuff, you know, so it doesn't get into the other person's property and stuff. I mean, that should be addressed in when you make those setbacks.
Okay, and so kind of what I'm hearing is like we have things that have to do with water, surface water going onto private or public areas. And then, so that's one thing. And then the other is there are things that can be done specifically to manage water flow. And so one, we're wanting people to communicate what they're doing and if they have things that can impact their neighbor or the public. And then the second thing would be if there are specific things that need to be done to manage it. And so then what I guess what could be helpful is whatever codes that are used to manage or that I actually identify ways to manage water flow. Those could be identified by reference. Is that what I'm hearing you say,
Yeah, I
Commissioner
think
Forsberg? Or Commissioner Ryan, go ahead.
Yes, I think that was what I was kind of getting at. Yes.
Okay, and I guess so if work is going to continue on, those are kind of the areas that we want to focus on so that we know what we're talking about and then what things a property owner might be able to do so that they can address whatever issue they may have.
I do have I got this little cautionary thing about, well, I'm looking at the building permit application review checklist. And number 5 says, does this project have the potential to impact adjoining properties? But then it gives examples, change in topography, stormwater, retaining walls. Because that first part of that sentence, there's other impacts to your adjoining properties that comes up. A big one for me is you get a big building and now you don't have your view anymore, or it blocks your sun, or it kind of opens up a can of worms, I guess. So I wonder
And I
how we
think
can
that
narrow that down.
that was, and I think that was why it was focused on topographical impacts only.
Right.
Not other things which are, concerns in the community, but I think it at this point, it's not if I think, yeah, I think it was just keeping it focused on this and not traveling beyond the topographical impacts.
Right.
And if I may comment, Madam Chair, that's a good point. We do have a height restriction already in code for buildings. And I had heard a while ago when speaking with a property owner, and we could double check on the validity of the claim, but it sounds like through the legal process, they had determined that through in Alaska that a view is not a protected right. So I'll look back into that, but that may not be a topic that we can even
Yeah.
address.
Right. I'm just thinking the way the thing is worded, it might be better to come out with just saying topographical impacts instead of.
Okay, so change where hearing you say through the chairs to change this to adverse topographical impacts on the building permit application, or whatever language you hear.
Yeah. Make it really written out that way.
Yeah, so make it clear that that's what the intent is.
Yeah.
And and then the things that like in the Haynes one, they had I think, excavation and fill on theirs, and they had on one section, and then on another section they had drainage. So they broke it out that way, just as a piece of information. So we're defining, and we're kind of keeping the scope fairly tight and to adverse topographical impacts. And then doing some more research on what other communities have done. And that's is that kind of the way we would think is going forward is the best way to go forward now?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there is a setback for how far you can alter the soil. I mean, where you can, the limits of construction, not just the building, but, the site grading and,
Kind of the limits of excavation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I would imagine it could be excavation and or fill, right?
Oh,
Or
right.
if yeah, because it would either one would impact drainage or soil stability.
Yep.
So in terms of this particular agenda item, should we then staff will continue uh, to do research on this and then bring a proposal back to the commission for further discussion?
Yeah, that'd be great. And Commissioner Ryan, if I could pick your brain on that. Fine.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
See if I can remember.
And yeah,
Standards.
I think that in terms of how much detail we want to go into for that code change, I can bring back a couple of different options for that. There we go.
Right.
Okay, and then if it's shall we move on to item 2, the extension of the commercial business district subcommittee?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have the Commercial Business District Subcommittee, which Commissioner Ryan has been part of and Chair Sweet has attended most. And we've gotten pretty far into our discussion. However, we did have to cancel a couple of meetings and we probably have another 1 or 2 to wrap up and get our report together. So at this moment, that subcommittee ends at the end of this month or at the end of January. So I'd ask for the commission if they're willing to extend that commercial business district subcommittee through the end of February, February 29th, so that we can complete that and get input from the committee on the final report. I don't know if Chair Sweet or Commissioner Ryan have any comment.
I do have a comment. Would the report have to be complete by the end of February? And who does the report, I guess?
So I guess that would be up to the subcommittee. Right now, I think I'm gonna be drafting the report. And
Okay.
so the plan is we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to finish up that discussion. And then if we need to have a second meeting to further that discussion, we can do one on the 14th. Otherwise, there would be a meeting on the 28th with a draft of that report that would have. It's the current plan, but if the subcommittee wishes to go a different way tomorrow night and someone there wants to draft it, but currently that would be me.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might take longer, but it'd be really nice to not keep stretching it out. So if we can get everybody to, yeah, say this is what we are gonna do. I don't, but if it's gonna take longer, then we'd have to readjust this at a next meeting and keep extending it, I guess.
Yeah, we
Okay.
could, your input is to extend it longer than that. I mean, do you have a different date in mind?
No,
No.
not really. I mean, I'm just thinking, what if we aren't able to get to a point? But if you're feeling pretty good about it, it seems like it's gone on for a long time and it would be good to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think it would be good to wrap it up and still get everybody's input. I don't know if Chair Sweet or City Manager, do you have any? Okay,
I'm good
so
with whatever you think is workable, so
I think that after the meeting on the 28th, we should be able to have that report to present to the planning commission. If you would like to give us a little bit more of a buffer. But other than that, I guess I would look for the commission to do motion to extend the commercial business district subcommittee through February 29th or a different date that you determine is better.
It'll be good. Yes, a good thing to shoot for, and hopefully it'll make it so that it does get done more quickly.
okay, so in that case, can I have a motion to extend the subcommittee until the 29th of February?
I will move that to extend the subcommittee to the 29th of February. So it's a leap year, huh? Get an extra day.
A lucky day. And could I have a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, and if the clerk could take the roll?
Yeah, Commissioner Forsberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Kroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan,
Yes.
and Commissioner Sweet.
Yes.
Okay. Motion of 4 yes. Or a vote of 4 yes, the motion has passed and the commercial business district subcommittee will be extended through the end of February, February 29th.
Thank you. And then we'll just continue with the agenda. Item I, staff reports.
Oh, the building permit business in the winter has been slow, but we do have one permit out for review right now. I'm just waiting to finish that up. And that is for a property on Shoreline Drive. Used to be, I think used to be Seaport Cottages.
Huh.
That they're doing construction and then put an addition onto one of those cabins that was there. So that is the only building permit in line right now to be reviewed. And there are a couple of other permits that have submitted multi-agency applications to the Kenai River Center and Army Corps engineers permits that will be coming down the line here pretty soon.
That's a separate place. It's not the Seaport, it's another.
It's two other properties that are on the sluice side. Do you have anything else? Yes. Okay. So keep forgetting about that. So the other update is for the Cedar Street extension. And so on Friday, I'll have a meeting with the surveyor to hopefully get a process and a quote for adding the Willow Street replat into that. and kind of see where we're at with that. And once we have that information, we can kind of further the process of getting Mr. Sandland to give his approval. And I think we were waiting on one other property owner, then get official letters from all the property owners to continue that process to get the easement and then to replat Willow Street if that's the direction that we want to go.
That's good. It has to have all the property owners have to sign on.
Yeah, all the people that would be having easements on off of Cedar Street on their property would have to sign off. And I don't know, Mr. Sandland is not in town right now, so I haven't heard from him about where he's at in his process, but he has not returned his building permit application at this time, so. And I don't know, Randy, if you have anything further on that.
I don't. And was that all for your staff report?
Yeah, that's it for right now. I could give an update on the commercial business district subcommittee, but we're still kind of in the process of finishing that up. So there's not really a whole lot of updates at this time.
Okay. So I'll continue with the agenda. Informational items not requiring action. Do we have any?
No, we do not at this time.
Okay, and then agenda item K, comments of the public.
Yeah, we still have no public online or in the room.
Okay. And then item L, comments of the commission. Any comments from any of the commission members?
It's good to see we're addressing some of the issues. Looks like we're moving forward pretty good.
Yep. I guess I'd like to say that the subcommittee has been fairly well attended and people are putting in a lot of volunteer effort, which is good to see of the community. As a member, it's kind of fun to have that discussion with people and try to figure out how to create our central business district in a way that is going to work for everybody.
Any other comments? So I'll go ahead and to item M, our next meeting is scheduled for March 6th, 2024. And motion to adjourn.
Yeah. So we get a motion to adjourn.
Sure. I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
As long as there's no objections, we can be adjourned.
Okay. Are
Right.
there any objections? Okay, so, yep, we are adjourned as of 6:40 PM Alaska time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye, Randy.
Thank you.
See you next